Beers and Basics, Sparky Coach podcast, take 2 actually. Had a bit of a false start in the intro.
Well, we're not all perfect at introing, are we, Crowie, after all?
We can't be good at everything, can
No,
ya?
well, the pressure got to you that time, didn't it?
We're talking about today our favourite topic, something to do with the bakery. We love the bakery here.
Shout out to the bakers
Yeah,
of
the
Australia.
bakery. Crazy.
And the butchers. But anyway, we're
what an
focused on the
industry.
bakers.
Let's just talk about pastry for a second. The good pastry is just the best. Good pastry, good bread. Amazing. So we're talking about charging for sauce. We're talking about a bit of saucy action. We're going to keep it PG though. I know you want to turn it a little bit MA, but I'm going to say saucy is going to stay to G, PG. A bit of
I think we can keep it.
Keep it light and polite.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So charging for sauce. It's pretty rare to go somewhere nowadays and get a pie and not be charged for sauce. And that's okay. Some places you go to, they got a big sauce bottle on the corner. I know Snapper Rocks Surf Club.
Yeah.
Lots of sauce around. The boys froth on that, and you can pour it over your head. They don't care, to my knowledge. Yeah, they might care.
They might care.
Okay.
That's okay. Hey, fun and games. But we'll keep it PG.
Keep it PG. Okay, so charging for sauce, we are in fact talking about making sure that your staff members have the skills to pay your bills, making sure the staff members know what's involved or included in the job enough to make a decision that they go, hey, this is non-standard install. This is different to what we've quoted. This is different to what's allowed. This is different because of this. This was unforeseen because of this. And I know you're got a couple of stories. I got lots of stories too.
Yeah.
Let's just reference a classic. You might have a dimmer install quote over the phone for, whatever, like $150, $200 if you get the first one, $4,000, whatever you can get.
Yeah.
X equals what? X gonna give it to you. A bit of an exhibit shout out there. But so talking about that, and then they get there and it's dimmer on an architrave switch. So, perfect example. Now you got to hack to shreds the architrave and try and risk not chipping it. Good luck with that one. Mm-hmm. And everyone's sitting there going, oh, man, I'm talking before multi-tools, right?
What about the
people
blunt
don't
chisel?
know. You don't know how good that. What about you just standard flathead screwdriver? Just bash it into it.
One chisel. I have a demolition chisel, and it's just
everyone's got to have a demo chisel.
But it also acted as the chisel, and you just get the grinder out on the job and be like, meh, just to sharpen it.
You're a sharp and chisel guy.
Well, what was that, or a flat blade screwdriver?
Do you know my brother sharpens speedballs? He froths on that.
Wow, that's a
hard. I mean,
thrifty dude.
Yeah. He's a bit Macklemore, bit thrifty.
Yeah,
thrift shop.
Yeah.
So anyway, shout out to my bro.
Sorry, that's my best tone deaf impersonation of singing.
The most tone deaf person I know, coming from an angel voice over here. So okay, we're talking about so dimmer, right? So you know, before there's a multi-tool, it might be clean now. It didn't used to be clean, but it's a non-standard. Anytime we busted the multi-tool out, you can almost guarantee there's a non-standard install kind of thing there. So it's a matter of like, can your staff look at it, recognize, hey, that's different to what we've allowed? It's a small time example, right? There's plenty of bigger time examples. Another example is a standard PowerPoint allowance for whatever it is, like 150, 250, depending on, I guess, how many there are really when you go to site. And then it's a matter of like, if it's up, down, around the corner, across the fence, it's a non-standard. So it's about recognizing, are your staff equipped? Do they hit the job equipped with the right information?
An understanding of the information that's required. Yeah, and I think identifying it too. So, the thing is the information correct on the job card to begin with for them to be able to interpret it? So, install a double standard PowerPoint. And then they get to the job and it's now no longer standard. It's understanding what the standard part means. And it could be, hey, I can't put the standard one in. It needs to be a vertical PowerPoint. I'll just put the vertical PowerPoint in for the same price. No problems at all, because I am a charity, aka the Salvation Army. When in fact you are not.
I thought you were a not-for-profit.
When in fact you are not. The difference, like what? So double PowerPoint, let's say give or take $8, right? Roughly cost-wise. but then you look to a vertical PowerPoint, I think off the top of my head, you're pushing the echelon of around the low $20 a mark. Now, last time I checked, our ABN wasn't registered as a charity, and we don't give things away for free.
What you do is you just keep it real simple and just turn the standard PowerPoint sideways.
Turn it around.
Sweet, man. No one's
That's
gonna
all good,
know.
isn't it?
That's cool.
So
It's a
is the information on the job enough detail to be able for the to be able to be interpreted correctly by the technicians, but also they have the tools to understand that this is not standard now, and how do I go about it? Also, the other thing that needs to be taken into consideration, I guess, is what have you put down on the job card? What have you gone through with the client? What has been discussed? Because, hey, we're doing an underground out to the back shed. We've got a 10 mil circuit running conduit out there, and we've got a draw wire for a comms cable, comms conduit as well in there also. So we're just going to throw some Parramatta rope in there. Shout out to Parramatta, Mr. Grand Final again, which is, Mr. Finals again this year.
better luck next year. Man, they suck so bad.
So good. But anyway, shout out to all the Parramatta fans. We do love you. I hope you enjoyed the 80s. But anyway, so you've had that conversation with the client. That's what they want. That's what they get.
Sorry, just got to backtrack. Peter Sterling, Brett Kenny, those years.
Fantastic. The 80s.
The golden years.
So NRL. So we're both massive fans. Crowie's team bowed out last weekend, unfortunately. Yeah. My team didn't even make the finals, unfortunately. But
the Sharkies were awful.
They weren't great. However, I'm not sure how they lost that game, but we'll move on. But also, just a quick stat. The last team to go back to back, so 3 in a row, was the Parramatta Eels in the 1980s. And it's something that the Penrith Panthers are looking to do this year. So I thought that's a fun fact. Another fun fact for Parramatta fans, the last time they won a grand final was the last of those 3.
It just reminds me of Happy Gilmore when he's like, Gilmore, you're on the list, aren't you? No, better luck next year. Yeah. Hey, better luck next year. Better luck next time with variations.
Yes. There's no second chances. So
you don't get a shot at that.
What I was trying to say quickly is with the conduit side of things, you may have already discussed 4 or 5 different options with the client, and this is what they've settled on for a price point sort of point of view. So when the techs on site then go ahead and decide to be like, I'll just run that Cat 6 cable in the comms cable, it can just be the draw wire, knowing full well that, you know, it can be utilized as the comms cable that's needed, is not really the point that we're after here. The fact of the matter is that that's not allowed for. That you're basically giving things away for free. And we're not in the business of giving away things for free, because what it does is it sets a dangerous precedent, particularly if you're working for clients on a larger volume sense, like builders or project managers or something like, where you're consistently doing a lot of work for them. If you just turn the blind eye to that extra PowerPoint, that extra light fitting, that extra light switch, et cetera, you're setting up a precedent of just being like push over Pete, basically.
Push over Pete. Also on that, if you just set the precedent that, you know, they jump, you say how high, and they're like, or they're always last minute on the schedule, or they're always painting to rough in, but we're still building walls. You know, if you've been there a couple of times and it's like coils on coils on coils, and you get there for the rough in and there's no roof on and the roof's delayed, and you're like, what am I doing here? You got to at some point get a bit of a backbone and start communicating honestly to people. Be like, hey, happy to rough in, just want there to be a roof on. Happy to rough in, just want all the walls built. So there's nothing worse than double handling something. Mm-hmm. But we are talking about variations and how cleanly you can just set a precedent on just giving things away for free. And that's so dangerous because everything costs money. We know that. Mm-hmm. And you know, $75 times 4 is $300. And $300 is you give away that once a week, there's your $15,000 a year. Yeah. So it's like, you know, I'm a big believer with varies. If there's a lot of varies, you could, you know, list 100, charge for 97. But also on that varies thing, make sure if you've made the conscious decision, and I deliberately say conscious here, if you've made the conscious decision not to charge for something, in other words, the plumbers hit your cable, the gyprockers like screw through something, or the builders have made a mistake. It's cool. Just make it known. Yep. It's got to be known. You have to basically say, this is what I've done. And that can be listed on the quote, on the progress payment. That can be listed on the body of an email. That can be listed somewhere.
Just a comment.
Yeah. It's just something, but you got to let it known. But your staff members, they have to know what's been included. And I know we talk about variations a lot, and that's not going to change because it's the most commonly form of lost money. And so many times when we check people's jobs, I'm a big believer that you've got to go through and assess how the job went. We call it job costing, back costing, whatever. And it's, the hours don't tell a total story, in my opinion, because it's the quality of hours. So you could be like, I allowed 150 hours, but we did it in 180. And that might be, hey, it was mishandled. So it's a big question. Was it the wrong price or the wrong process? Mm-hmm. But on that, I've got a question for everyone. And it's like, was there variations you missed? Because that 150 to 170 hours could be simply that you walked past 20 hours of variations or $4,000 of variations that you just weren't. And it sounds kind of silly to talk about, but when you're growing a business, you miss stuff like this because you're busy and you're like running around.
Not doing the checks, not doing the balances.
Not doing the checks and balances. Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah. I just think that make sure that you are capturing them. And the other thing too is make sure it's known, communicated, like you said, if we're not going to be charging for it or, hey, we'll let this be known. Example may be, hey.
Let's get a loudspeaker. We will not be charging for this.
It might be as simple as, hey, we ran the cable to the back shed with a Cat 6 cable in there sort of thing. Where do you want us to terminate it in there? We're not going to charge for that. We're just going to throw a mounting block on the wall, just on the inside, back to back, make it really easy. We had to run the mains into a switchboard anyway. We were there. That's okay. Didn't charge for that sort of thing. The other thing too is be mindful of is it going to is it actually a variation too? Be mindful of that because you don't need the kickback also, which can be really, really painful. Like if you're moving the PowerPoint from one side of the stud to the other, is that really a variation?
I'm charging. No, not really. Yeah, exactly.
But be selective about it because it could just be like, it took us 10 minutes to do, so to speak. That's right. Can you move that cost into another legitimate variation so that it's not also magnified on that? Because there's smart ways to approach the variations.
And you got to make sure, and this is the same thing in any variation conversation, most times there's additions and then there's subtractions too. So if you're gonna charge the additions, make sure you're also taking off the subtractions. In other words, like we had 10 PowerPoints, I've added 4, but we've taken off 2. So now we're charging for 2, not for 4. Yeah. So just make sure you're knowledgeable enough about the job to not let anything sneak past you, but you're also the clients are probably pretty switched on too. So I think anytime you're trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes, you're in a very dangerous position, right? If you're living on a prayer, Bon Jovi style, you're eventually going to get that prayer smacked into your face by losing the client. And as soon as you lose a client over something dishonest, you lose your reputation. Once you lose your reputation, you're pretty much shot to pieces. You lose the trust, you're cooked.
It's definitely hard to regain. So I think be mindful that the source isn't free. It does cost some money. So just like all the extra little bits and pieces that you do, bear in mind that there's labor and materials associated with it and charge accordingly, but be honest about it.
And once again, wrapping this up, the communication for money has to come early. As soon as it comes late, it's almost you've bullied the client into charging whatever you want. It's your call then. It's on your terms. And you can be like, oh, that's fair. At least stitch me up over here. If it's communicated early and it's like, hey, that's a $3,000. And then they go, oh, cool, invoice for $3,000. Sick. We're ready to go. But if they're not expecting it, it's very dangerous and rocky territory.
100%.
No, so with your varies, treat people well, be transparent and upfront, and look after yourself too.